The Out of the Norm show is made possible through the generosity of our partners in progress. The Bank of Gravette, caretakers of the Arkansas spirit. Simmons Suites in Bentonville, Arkansas. The best part of a great day is a good night at Simmons Suites. Wayman Hoag's Back Yonder, a major contribution to Arkansas history, annotated by Jody Parsons.
This is Petra from Boca Raton, Florida, and this is the Out of the Norm show, where the stories are all about you.
Well, there's lots of hammering and beating and all that stuff going on, and a lot of noise around here. Hi, this is Norm Allen with you from the Out of the Norm show. We're at the Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art right here in Bentonville, Arkansas. It's not quite ready to open yet, but will in November of 2011. Just going to give you a little teaser about it. Just kind of had to check out and see what the progress is like. Today we're going to talk about something that you can relate to for sure. It could be the wildlife in your backyard or in the woods around your place, or you may see them in a state park. We're going to talk to Denis today, a master naturalist from the state of Arkansas, and we're going to find out about bears today. So hang on to that picnic basket. We'll be right back on the Out of the Norm show where the stories all about you.
Mom, I think it's time we talk about you getting older.
Talk to my plastic surgeon.
No matter who you are, it's not easy talking about aging. A message from Volunteers of America.
And now, another adventure with Savings Man.
Look, honey, it's my Social Security statement.
Oh, gosh, how are we going to retire on that?
Never fear, young savers.
It's Savings Man.
You need to save more. You'll need this.
Oh, the ballpark estimate worksheet.
That's right. Get it at choosetosave.org and find out how much you'll need to save for your future.
Gee, thanks, Savings Man.
No, thank you.
So visit choosetosave.org and stay tuned for more Savings Man.
Hi, welcome back to the Out of the Norm show, where the story's all about you. Well, today it's all about our state and our surroundings here in this beautiful, pristine woods right here near Crystal Bridges in Bentonville, Arkansas. Our guest today is Mr. Denis, who is a master naturalist from here in the state of Arkansas, and he knows a lot about everything that's natural and wild in our state. He's not a wild guy, but he knows a lot about wild things. Thanks for coming with us today.
Thank you for having me, Norm. Appreciate it.
First of all, you were from Miami, Florida, as we discussed a little bit earlier. That's a whole lot different environment than here in northwest Arkansas, isn't it?
Much different. Weather-wise, people-wise, habitat-wise. Yeah, I enjoy it up here.
So what is the difference between the wildlife that you would see there and the places you would go? Because you were near Lake Okeechobee and Everglades, and now we're up here. What is the contrast?
Well, actually, what surprised me after I became familiar with this area is how similar a lot of the animals were. We had black bears in Florida, not necessarily as far down south as Miami, but there's a pretty good black bear population in Florida, and there's one here in Arkansas. You see great blue herons flying around here, and of course you see all kinds of great blue herons in Florida in the wetlands. The pine trees up here. It's the state tree. A lot of pine trees in Florida. So I was just surprised to see really the similarities in animals that are up here with Florida. There are animals up here that we really don't see any more in Florida, though. The skunk is one of them. Seeing a lot of roadkill, unfortunately, with skunk. I don't see that anymore in Florida. They used to be very prevalent, and really the Game and Fish Commission down there is not sure of where the skunks have gone. You have muskrats, you have nutria up here, which we don't have in Florida, so and beaver. Quite a bit of beaver up here. So there are different animals up here that we don't see in the tropical areas.
How has the population of wildlife in Arkansas changed over the last couple of decades?
Well, the one I'm most familiar with are the black bears. Arkansas used to be called the bear state, and there was a reason for that. It's because they supposedly had the largest black bear population of any state in the United States. At one time in the 1800s, early 1800s, it was estimated there were approximately 50,000 black bears in Arkansas. There were more black bears than people at that period of time. In less than 100 years, they virtually disappeared. It's been attributed to loss of habitat due to clear cutting. There was some very serious clear cutting done in the early 1900s in both the Ozark and Ouachita Mountains, and that destroyed the bear's habitat. And then there was unregulated hunting. So those two factors are generally considered and attributed to what happened to the black bear population. They either were killed off or they left and went to some other state. But then they were brought back, which is a fascinating story. The Arkansas Game and Fish Commission decided in 1958 they were going to start reintroducing black bears into Arkansas. And they decided they were going to bring bears from Ely, Minnesota. Minnesota was agreeable to sharing some of their bear population. And in exchange, they wanted some of our turkeys. So Arkansas traded some of the turkeys to Ely, Minnesota, and brought back bears, as I've read, in a pickup truck, about 5 or 6 at a time. It wasn't any great movement, and the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission really didn't want the people of Arkansas to know that they were doing this, simply because they didn't know how the people would react to having bears in the area again. So over a 10-year period, well, it's interesting, over a 10-year period, they brought back a total of 254 black bears. For the first 5 years, they realized that they had brought back only female bears, only sows. And so for the next 5 years, they brought back males, understandably. Well, in retrospect, biologists now say that was probably one of the best ways to reintroduce a species to an area, because it gave the females an opportunity to, locate their home range, and then likewise the males. But that 254 number of bears that they brought back has now resulted in a population of approximately 1,500 in the state of Arkansas. Primarily in the Ozark Mountains, in the Ouachita Mountains, the White River National Wildlife Area has some, and then also the Festhinol National Wildlife Refuge in the southern part of the state has a black bear population. Biologists and scientists have called it probably the most successful reintroduction of a large species in the United States ever have taken place.
Isn't there a bear hunting season even in Arkansas?
Yeah, because once the population increased, it becomes a management problem, as always happens. We, of course, could not support 50,000 bears in Arkansas with all the people, so they have to manage that. And the way they do that, they open the hunting season, and now have a hunting season where they allow so many permits and so many bears to be harvested or killed, and that manages the population pretty well.
Well, you say that they have their cubs in the wintertime. I think of them going into hibernation. Tell me a little bit about the hibernation process.
Yeah, the hibernation process is not totally as a lot of people think. A lot of people think it's, they go into hibernation in the winter and stay there for 4 months and don't move and then come out in the spring. Not totally so. They are able to shut down a lot of their bodily functions. They slow down their metabolism. A lot of research is actually being done in the field of dialysis to find out how that process works. But they do every once in a while get up, maybe go outside, maybe go to the bathroom. Sometimes they don't have to. They might look around for food, but there really isn't any food, so they do put on the pounds to get them through the winter, and the primary reason is there's just no food out there in many habitats. But in a habitat that doesn't suffer the snow and the heavy snow cover, you'll have bears that will get up for maybe an hour or two during the day and go outside if they're in a den, or get up and just walk around a little bit. But in the colder climates, you will have them stay inside and outside of the snow for longer periods of time.
Right. When is a bear the most dangerous?
Well, a mother with her cubs is going to be dangerous. They say you don't want to get between a mother and her cubs, and that's true. There's a big difference between the black bear, though, and the brown bear or the grizzly bear. The American black bear is not that aggressive, contrary to what most people think. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't take precautions and you shouldn't go up to one or try and feed it or anything like that. But generally, the black bears, if it's a mother with her cubs and she feels threatened, she's going to send her cubs up a tree. And then oftentimes she'll walk off and wait until the danger's passed, then come back and retrieve her cubs. Whereas a grizzly or a brown bear is going to be very aggressive, even if they don't have cubs. You don't want to surprise them. You don't want to surprise any bear. That really is what makes them more aggressive than anything else. But the probably the time when they are most dangerous is when they are looking for food for the winter time, because they're trying to put on weight. They're concentrating on what they're doing as far as eating, and they don't want to be surprised. That's the biggest thing that they always tell you when you're out hiking. If you're in bear country, you want to make noise. If you're with somebody else, talk to each other, sing, ring a bell, do something, simply to let a bear who might be in the bushes along the side of the trail know that you're coming and not surprise them.
They're not intimidated by our size because they're bigger than we are.
Usually, yeah. Now they give you different instructions as to how to react if you come across a black bear as opposed again to the brown or grizzly bear, and they're completely different. First of all, you never run from either one of them because you're not going to win, and they project that as prey if they see you running, so either one of them will supposedly go after you. But the black bear, you can yell at them, you can make noise, you try and make yourself as big as possible. If you're wearing a backpack, you take it off, they say, and you put it over your head to make you look even bigger, and it'll oftentimes scare the black bear away. Not with the grizzly bear. Supposedly you do just the opposite with the grizzly.
You're a bigger sandwich.
Bear. That's right. You want talk to it real quietly, and if you can, slowly try and back away. Show that it's in charge and you're submissive to it. Also, if you get attacked by a brown bear or grizzly bear, supposedly you play dead. That's the quickest thing you do. Just cover your head and play dead. And the brown bear may take a swipe or two at you, but then supposedly will let you walk away, as has happened to a lot of people. Some people have not been able to. But the black bear, if a black bear actually attacks you, you're supposed to fight back. With hands, feet, everything else. Just pound the bear, be very aggressive toward the bear, and that oftentimes will cause the black bear to leave.
So, but we really don't have any brown bear or grizzlies in this part of the country, though, in Arkansas, do we?
No, none at all. No, they're primarily out west, Montana, in that area. The grizzly bear population has really dwindled over the years. One of the things I do in one of my programs, I have a picture of the flag of the state of California. And most people know what's on the flag of the state of California, a grizzly bear. When they adopted that flag, I think it was back in the 1920s, they had a large grizzly bear population. It is now extinct. In California, they have no more grizzly bears, yet that is their state symbol. The patches that their game and fish officers wear have two things on it. They have a bear, and they have the state of California, which is kind of ironic because what's happening.
And both are becoming extinct.
They are. Yeah, they are. It's true.
Is there an observation area in Arkansas where if you wanted to, say, stand at a point and know that that's going to be a regular habitat of bears that people could see and take pictures and those kind of things, or just kind of a chance thing?
Yeah, it's just sort of a chance thing, is my understanding. You will have some people that will say we get bears periodically in our backyard at certain times of the year. But other than that, yeah, there's really no area that you can go, that you're guaranteed to seeing bears. Now, I mentioned the White Rock area. That's used naturally by bears, and is also used as an area by the Game and Fish Commission to relocate nuisance bears. They will often take bears down into that area. So that's an area that supposedly is pretty good for viewing bears.
What part of the state is the White Rock area in?
White Rock is southeast of Bentonville. It's north of I-40. So it's between 40 and this area, right off of 71.
Out on the Boston Mountain.
Yeah, exactly.
So folks down in Fort Smith, it wouldn't be unusual for some of those rural areas to see bears in their community then.
That's true. You got to remember the bears here, unlike some of the bears up in Alaska, don't like going into communities that much. But they'll go where the food is. If they had their way, they'd never leave the forest. That's their preferred habitat. That's their preferred domain. And if they can find enough food there, they'll just stay in a forest their whole life, and you may never see one. But if the food sources shrink, and for 1 year, sometimes maybe the acorns aren't falling as plentiful as they have been, then they start leaving that habitat, and that's when they get to be a problem sometimes. There was a bear called Bart, B-A-R-T, Bart the bear, that was in all kinds of movies that we would see. And Bart had a successful career. When I say successful, he never attacked his trainer and died several years ago. Now, in comparison to that, there's another bear called Rocky. And Rocky was in a Will Ferrell movie, and I forget the name of it now, but it wasn't that long ago, where Will Ferrell was a wrestler, and he was wrestling supposedly with Rocky, this bear. To make a long story short, a friend of the trainer's who had worked with bears wanted to know if he could be videoed wrestling with Rocky. Thought that'd be neat, and the trainer of Rocky thought that was all right, and set it up. Well, the video of what happened was the subject of a National Geographic special. The bear attacked the person who was being trained, and they immediately came in, started spraying bear spray. There were people there, and the guy gets up from the ground and runs off camera. You think he's all right? Well, he dropped dead like 10 seconds after the bear had gotten his jugular vein. So, I mean, there's an example. You know, these are wild animals. Can you change their makeup? Well, maybe temporarily, but you never know. And that's why, in my opinion, it is never good to have a wild animal, to try and domesticate a wild animal.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of difference between training and conditioning as opposed to taming, isn't there?
Exactly, yeah. I don't think you can ever tame them, even if you have them from the time they're a small cub, whether it's a bear or a lion or whatever it is, they can always turn on you.
So you've collected quite a few pictures, as we've seen in the show here, of bears from around the state. Were these your photos mostly taken in this northwest part of Arkansas?
No, actually, most of the bear presentation that I have are pictures that I took off the web. Part of it was because the bears of the world, that was the only place I could get pictures of them easily. Now, the pictures of the brown bears and the grizzly bears actually were taken by my son, who's a photojournalist up in Alaska, near the Russian River. So I was able to use those, but most of the other pictures, again, were pulled off of various sites to put the program together.
Well, rattle me off a list of the different kinds of bears that you can think of.
All right, well, the three bears that we have in North America are the American black bear and the brown bear and the polar bear. Now, you have subspecies of those already mentioned, which is the grizzly bear, and then there's the Kodiak bear. Which is only found on Kodiak Island up in Alaska. But they are really not considered separate species, but they're bears that we're familiar with. So those are the North American bears. The only bear that's found in South America is called a spectacled bear. And the reason it's called that is because it has white lines around its eyes that look like he's wearing glasses. He or she's wearing glasses or spectacles. So they're called spectacled bears. Then all of the bears over in Europe and Asia, primarily Asia, are endangered. They're on the endangered species. There's a sun bear, which is the smallest bear in the world, weighs generally less than 100 pounds, lives in trees, eats fruit. It's found over in Malaysia and Borneo and that area. There's a bear called the sloth bear, which is found in northern India. And ironically, I've been told that efforts to save the Bengal tiger, which is very endangered, have rubbed off on the sloth bear and are helping preserve that bear. There's an Asiatic black bear that is oftentimes the bear that you see that is used for body parts, unfortunately, in some Asiatic countries where they have traditional medicine that they still practice. And so those are most of the bears that you find in other parts of the world. Like I said, over in Asia, they are all endangered.
What about panda?
Panda, thank you. Panda is a bear, but wasn't always considered a bear. In fact, until just recently, within the last 10 years, scientists are basically in agreement that the panda belongs to the bear family. Before that, there was a lot of scientists, ironically, that thought the panda should belong to the raccoon family. And people wonder why. Well, there's an animal called the red panda. that is found over in Europe and in Asia that looks kind of like a raccoon and kind of like a panda. Of course, it's got the name panda. And because of that, a lot of scientists thought, well, the panda that we know, the giant panda, is related to the red panda. Well, they know now that it is not, and that the panda should properly be included in the bear family. Pandas, again, are very interesting. Everybody loves the panda. Something people may not know is that China owns all of the pandas in the world. Even if the panda is in a zoo, as we have them in our country and other countries have pandas in zoos, if those pandas have offspring, that offspring belongs to China. So they maintain control and complete. It's the national symbol of China. It's on their money. It's a capital offense to kill a panda in China. You can get the death penalty for killing a panda. So they really protect their pandas, and they should. They live in a very small area, high up in the mountains where there's a lot of bamboo, because that's what they do all day is eat the bamboo. But it's only about 300 miles wide and maybe 300 miles long and about 100 miles wide, the area. So it's a very small area, and that's where all the pandas in their natural state live.
How successful have zoos been in raising new crops of bears, to put it a different way? But I mean, when they're trying to regenerate the bear population, has that been very successful?
I don't know specifically. I know that bears have been born in captivity and are being born in captivity. We know that pandas are being born in captivity, which is a real special event. There's one panda I read about recently that I think that it had 8 offspring in captivity, which is something very unusual because the pandas have a very high mortality, as you may know. So those efforts are working. I don't know if they're totally successful, but if you have one born in captivity that survives and lives, that's one more that you didn't have.
Well, and we talk primarily about bears on this particular conversation, but there's other wildlife in Arkansas that really deserves some attention and needs to be cared for. Isn't that right?
Yes. In fact, I think all wildlife, in one way or another.
Other than armadillos.
Yes, other than armadillos. Elk is a good example. Elk were native to Arkansas and had a fairly good population, and then they died out. They were reintroduced slowly. The population got up somewhere around 200, I think in the 1950s, if I'm correct, and then all of a sudden they disappeared. Totally disappeared. And they're not really sure why. They give the normal answers. They think that destruction of habitat, unregulated hunting, and just natural disease wiped them out. But they started bringing them back again. And now we have a herd of about 500. Which is a manageable population, except they are going to thin it out a little because they are now going to reintroduce elk to Missouri. Missouri lost their elk herd and population, and they're going to bring elk into southwestern Missouri, into 3 counties, I've read, from Kentucky, and then a few from Arkansas. So they're going to thin out the Arkansas herd a little bit, and but they're going to bring most of them in from Kentucky, and they're going to bring in about 150. That's what they feel that they can manage in this 350-acre piece of land.
Yeah. Now near Ponca, Arkansas is where the big herd is. I've seen that out there running across the road, and they'll come right up to your car and the whole thing. Now, when you talk about thinning it out, is that going to be through a hunting season, or is it going to be through entrapment, or are they going to introduce a predator animal that will help thin that out naturally?
No, generally they've, I think it was 1998. I believe it was. It was either 88 or 98. I'm sorry, I'm not sure which one. Maybe 98. They reintroduced hunting. Elk hunting again, because the herd had gotten large enough, and that is the normal course that they use to thin out a herd. They don't issue a lot of permits. Most of the permits that they've issued have been around 25, 26 each year. Over 9,000 people apply, so to get one of them it's very difficult. And they do have the drawing in Jasper, in Newton County. They have a celebration. But of those 25 and 26, at least for the last couple of years, the number of elk harvested have been around 16, 17. So not everybody that has a permit is able to find an elk. But I think that's the preferred way to thin out a herd. But they're going to reduce it a little bit more, I think, to kind of help or satisfy some of the concerns that farmers in that Ponca area have. As you might understand, while the area where the public area where the elk are is between the farms and the Buffalo River. And that's not a very wide area. There are fences there. And as you know from having seen the elk can jump fences. And they do jump fences. And when they do that, they're competing with the same food that the cattle eat. And a lot of the farmers don't like that. And so in order to try and satisfy some of their concerns, I think they're going to try and reduce the herd a little bit. Generally, also, when they issue hunting permits, they issue more permits for private land than they do for public land. Again, to try and reduce the presence of the elk on the private land. But like you said, elk are just magnificent animals. I had not seen an elk till I moved to Arkansas, and then went down to the Boxley, the Ponca area that you're talking about. And you go there when they're in the rut in the late September, early October. For about 2 months, you hear them bugling. Just a fantastic experience.
It is. This is managed ecology then, so so man will live comfortably and conveniently, and the animals are preserved in the long run for generations to come.
Yeah, that's the way it should be. I mean, the animals were here before us. I mean, you hear people say that, and that's true. But, you know, civilization has its purpose, and developing cities and places, it takes its natural course of events, but you also have to protect and provide for the wildlife. I don't think you should completely cause animals to become extinct or completely leave an area if you can provide an area for them to live in.
Unless it's an armadillo.
Unless an armadillo or a feral pig.
A feral pig, yeah, those are pretty rough.
Yeah, open season on feral hogs in Arkansas year-round. There really is.
Quick story, my granddaughter got a BB gun for Christmas, and she was shooting squirrels in the backyard, and she was talking about her dog is going to go to heaven with her. And I said, well, if you're going to do that, when Sugar passes away, what about those little squirrels? Those are him. She said, oh, no, Lala, the squirrels go the other place.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Well, we're going other places too, and I hope you've learned a lot about bears, and other than what you knew about Winnie the Pooh, Yogi Boo Boo, and let's see, there's a whole list of them. Elvis Presley, I Want to Be Your Teddy Bear, and all those kind of things. But I hope you've learned something about that, and we'll visit some of our beautiful state parks in Arkansas, and who knows what you're going to run across.
Thank you very much, Norm. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being with us. We'll be right back after a quickie. Don't go away. This is the Out of the Norm Show with the stories all about you.
That's my friend, Cole. And that's me, Ilya. Ever since we got teamed up by Canine Companions for Independence, people don't think of Cole as the kid in the wheelchair anymore. Now he's the kid with a really cool dog. Personally, I think Cole's pretty cool too. To find out how you can help bring people like Cole together with dogs like me, visit cci.org or call 1-800-572-BARK.
Boy, I sure hope you enjoyed that story as much as I did making it for you. You know, we're on our way now to more adventures about people, places, things, and events from all across America. And we'll be bringing them to you right here on the Out of the Norm Show. Until next time, we'll see you later. The Out of the Norm Show, where the stories are all about you.
Going home's not a hard thing to do. I just close my eyes and see me there. That are so dear and true, like loving the South and me just loving you. You myself and me just loving you.
The stories of Arkansas are still being told, and you may be the one to tell it. Come and join us at the Arkansas Author Showcase on May 14th in Rogers, Arkansas. If you're a writer, call the number on the screen, and we'll get back to you, and you could be a part of our group. If not, just come on out for a good time as we sign books, meet the public, tell stories about the state that we love, and it's all natural. You'll enjoy the Arkansas Author Showcase on May 14th in Rogers, Arkansas at the Frisco Mall, because Arkansas stories